Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the sports betting show hosted by a real statistics professor. People, it has been a while. We've been off. Times have been crazy. I don't even know where to start with it all, other than many of you know how crazy life has been for me. The main story, the biggest thing is our now 19-month-old Hudson, who has an ultra rare genetic condition. Life's been hard for him. Life's been hard for us. And things aren't solved because that's not how these things work, but we're learning a little bit better how to manage it. And so, I got knocked down a few times, and you saw that, folks, with the shows just slowly decreasing in frequency, kind of starting from last summer into last fall. We kind of hung in there through football. So many of you come back through football. If you're just here for college football, you didn't miss anything. But our college basketball offering, our MLB offerings, really kind of took a hit here. We still had all of our paid services over on Dub Club. That's changed too, because we're actually going back to where we were a few years ago with Patreon. Nothing against the people over in Dub Club. I know a couple of them high enough up in the platform, and really great people. We just didn't think their mission aligned kind of with ours and what they're good at, and what we're good at. It just kind of wasn't the right fit. And we really like kind of the messaging we had previously with Patreon. So we're back with college football. We're gonna be back every week, Cousin Jared, me and you, doing the college football show, just like old times. Jake, you're with us here because we had so much fun 2 years ago doing the 2023 college football season bets. We had a great time with that. We did 3 episodes. Both of y'all won money. And so now we're starting off this season right by doing it again. We missed it last year, but we're back now with some season bets. Cousin Jared, you look like you have something to say.
I mean,
you have so many things to chime in on. Where are you starting?
Well, Steve, honestly, I kind of feel bad for you guys just now coming into college football. I've been writing about college football for the past 3 weeks over on Patreon. So, you mentioned making the move from Dub Club back over to Patreon, not just picks from us now, not just YouTube videos, but throughout the college football season. I'll be writing some as well. So I've been posting articles for a few weeks now. We'll have another one before the season starts up. So yeah, just super excited for college football to be back, and super excited to be, adding some other things to the Picks with the Professor platform here during college football season.
That is very well said. I've been going through the rosters, getting the model ready, and I'm like picking up tidbits and dropping them and all these things. And I'm just trying to catch up to your knowledge. Jake, there's more changes on your end too. You've got a college basketball show that you started, different channel, because it's a slightly different name. But if you're a college basketball junkie, people, you're going to want to go to his channel and watch that. So Jake, tell us more about your show, Bench Point, that you've launched also on YouTube.
Yeah, me and a couple of buddies, we picked it up, started doing it. I don't think we're 8 episodes in now. If you like listening to 3 idiots try to pretend they know everything about college basketball, this is the perfect show for you, because we excel at being idiots. But the rest of that, you can find us on YouTube, obviously, TikTok and Instagram. Stuff's coming up daily, so just follow along, have fun, make fun of us when we're wrong, and just cheer us when we're right.
Hey, it's a lot of fun new things happening, a lot of return to the old things, a lot of what you'll see, folks, going forward. Jared, you and I talked about this with the college football show. We're going to kind of get back to our roots a little bit more. So a couple of years ago, we did more segment thing. We did more games, less talking on each one. We're going to kind of try to go back to the well and what some of the fun things that we really enjoyed that we know worked. And Jake, some new things as well, like with the show. So a lot happening here. I think it's a lot of good things. We'll have links in the show description. We'll be back often here with more college football stuff. And then when college basketball is around, Jake, you and I will still be doing a little bit here on this platform, doing some of the same fun stuff we did earlier in previous years, where, we take what the model says and you can kind of say, hey, what you agree with and disagree with. And people like to hear things like that. Cousin Jared, you'll be doing the same thing with college football. So a lot happening here. The only last thing really to mention that I'm not sure anyone here would know unless you're with us over in our Discord, which is one of the exclusive benefits you get with by supporting us. Again, previously through Dub Club, now through Patreon, is I was in a car accident a month ago now, rear-end collision, and I'm still dealing with the concussion symptoms, brain fog. I have an MRI scheduled in the brain. Nobody thinks there's any long-term damage, but it's lasted longer than I think. So the show might get interesting. I may forget where I'm at some point. So if anything weird happens, we'll just blame the concussion. It's actually kind of nice because I can just blame anything bad on the concussion.
And our families may say there's been no difference. So, who knows? You may not notice anything.
I'm just blaming all my bad picks on Ryan's concussion is what I'm doing.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah. Between kids and concussion and whatever, summer, it's been hot, whatever. We got a lot of things going on that we can blame it on. We're going to get going here, though. We've got a ton of bets for you here, season win totals, a couple of props. We're going to go off the rails with one of them for sure, maybe a couple of them. But we are going to start off with Jake. You are going to get the leadoff here. And the reason I'm going to give you the leadoff is a couple things. First off, it's your team. And second off, I wanted to harken back to 2 years ago when we did this show, 2023. First off, Cousin Jerry, you took the title in that one by making $222 on the $1,000 that you got to wager. But Jake, you had a very impressive $189 profit as well. One of your big winners was on Tennessee that year. You bet them under 2 years ago. So I will give people a hard time if they're a homer at times. That's just, I like to poke fun a little bit. But you did a great job that season of saying, hey, the hype's too high, the number's too high. It was an easy under winner, one of the many things that propelled you to a profitable season wins. This year, we're going to start you off by Tennessee, but you're not going under. You're actually going over 8.5, and you're getting plus odds, plus 115 of your $1,000 that you get this year. You're putting 150 on it. Tell us more.
Yeah. That year was easy because, Hendon Hooker was something special. And then we were going through our second ride on the Joe Milton experience that the Patriots and now the Cowboys are experiencing, where practice is, oh my God, and then game is like, oh my God. So that's where that was at. This one, I trust Heupel. He does magic all the time. But really, the defense should be just as good, if not better. McCollum, I can't tell his name, Jamad is coming back. Lockdown corners. Defensive line should be just as good. The linebackers with Arian Carter should step up, do really well. The running back situation shouldn't be anywhere near as bad or as what you're thinking it is. Like, you lose the offensive player of the year, and Samson, who had an incredible year setting the touchdown record. The drop off is not that far. He had some good help behind him. I think Bama and Florida are winnable games here, even though they're on the road. Florida at the end of the year, after their slaughterhouse of a schedule, they could be very beat up there. And I just not huge into Bama here, but look, there's only one. There's what? Two, those are the only, can't speak anymore. I'm way out of practice on this. There's only a couple teams ahead of Tennessee on like the SP Plus that are on their schedule, and that's Georgia and Bama. So if you drop those and win every one of the other ones, you're more golden. I trust too much in Heupel. Think the defense is too good, and Oklahoma is really the big question mark to me. And no, I don't like Venables. I don't think he's long for that job, and he's not doing that great of a job out there in Oklahoma. And this time he's got to come back to Knoxville, and that's always a tough road game.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, myself included, are confused about Oklahoma. I'm sure they will be featured a lot during the weekly shows because I feel like a lot can happen with that one. Tennessee's defense last year, such a strong suit for them, and I feel like it was such a surprise given what we expect, all the offensive stuff and the defense coming around. Jake, how do you feel about having an offensive guru, a quarterback guru, with this defense like this? Does it get you thinking bigger picture, bigger possibilities? Because it seems like all the ingredients are there, or where's your head at?
I love the fact that he's able to do it and pull off the winning games. I just worry that it's going to be the same Tennessee thing where we've got one and not the other for his whole career. We either have the offense and not the defense, or the defense and not the offense. I don't think this defense will be the same next year, and then our quarterback play should be vastly improved next year. So it's going to be on that seesaw, but it's a good sign if you have an offensive based guy and his defensive coordinator and his defense are doing well enough to have in the top 10 in most categories. That's if the offense comes around like it should with Heupel, then that should give you 1 or 2 extra wins a year.
Yeah, it does seem like the ingredients are there if they could ever get both in the same year.
Well, and I'm not going to let this go without asking the Tennessee fan. What are your thoughts on the Niko situation? Letting Niko go, bringing in Joey Aguilar from App State. I wrote, that was one of the things I talked about, one of the first articles I wrote, that whole Niko experience for both Tennessee and UCLA. So what are your thoughts on that, and what impact, if any, do you think that's going to have? Because I know Niko didn't play great last year, but he was still a highly touted guy and clearly has some potential.
Well, yeah, the talent's there. Just I think that guy, the kid, is getting some bad advice because that wasn't a smart move, no matter which way you look at it, of when he did it. Because even if it was the right move from like the school wise and want to be back with family and all that, you do that at the first part of it, not when you've got just a couple months to figure out a whole new offense and go through a nasty Big Ten. It's not going to help your stats. And so I think it's a bad move on his part. And I'm happy we told him to go kick rocks, because that was just, I was ashamed what he did, and there are rumors going around. I don't know what's true and what's not, but asking for more money because you made the playoff is ridiculous. But at the same time, if we don't at least hit 7-8 wins this year, then Niko looks like we should have paid him, and it looks like Heupel has lost controls. It's a big risk. I'm happy we told him to go kick rocks because he didn't play that well. He didn't deserve pay raise.
Yeah.
I don't get to play average at my work and get double my money.
Yeah. Well, and I would tell people who are interested in my full thoughts, go over to Patreon, read what I wrote. But I'm proud of Tennessee for making a stand. They made a stand signing Niko in the first place. When NIL was just kind of getting started, they went out and kind of took a leap. I was proud of them for that. I'm proud of them for telling Niko, no, we don't think you're as valuable as what you're paying you for. And Niko, that's fine. That's his prerogative. Whether he's getting bad advice or not, that's his prerogative. But I do think that after the season, there's going to be a clear winner and loser. I have no idea which one it's going to be, but either Tennessee's going to look real dumb or Niko's going to look real dumb. I don't know who, but I think this is just going to be one person's going to be not kind of left holding the bag on
or maybe Tennessee gets to 10 wins. Maybe Niko has a great season and everyone's just happy and there's just, there's no drama.
See, I think that's the least likely outcome, but I guess possible.
Probably true. Yeah. That's probably true. But people, this is why you come to the show, the lukewarm takes there from Cousin Jared, which I completely agree with, which is teams have a right to pay the players and sign them. They have a right to say, we don't think you're worth that much. And the player has a right to go out and get what he thinks he's worth. And okay. And then Jake, like you said, then now you have the time of, we could sit here and second guess and say, was your timing smart on that? Like maybe you should have done it a little bit differently, but I mean, I guess at the end of the day, he gets to make his choice and now he's got his bed and he'll have to lay in it. But Jake, you mentioned something there about the schedule. And I remember we talked last year about Florida was a team specifically that had the terrible, crazy schedule and almost won all these games. And we were backing them like crazy because they were covering games that they should have been killed in and they were winning games. But that's the SEC and it's kind of the Big Ten and it's the Big 12 and it's kind of all of them now. It seems like we really have to check the schedule. We're going to go next, Cousin Jared, to you. You're going to talk, stick in the SEC, not exactly your team of Texas A&M, but just down the road LSU. You're going to go under 8.5. Plus odds at this one as well, plus 135. You're going to risk $74 on this one to win an even 100. Not that you have to talk about it or not, but it is to be mentioned, of course, in this SEC, folks. If you're betting any of these season win totals, make sure you check the schedule out because who gets who is really going to matter. Because Jared, plus 135 is a nice little price here. Probably maybe the best odds. Among the best odds. The next one will be really good too that you can get on plus odds for a season win total. And now that means that there's heavy juice on the over, meaning people are really thinking over, thinking that 9's more likely, and you're saying not so fast. 9 may not be that easy to get to. Why do you think that?
Yeah, so I will caveat this conversation with probably like plus 120 or plus 125 is the limit where I'm drawing on this, where I would go under. I want to be getting plus 125, plus 130, plus 135 on this play. I think the reason that people are liking the over here on LSU is Nussmeier's probably I would say the lowest floor quarterback in the SEC. They had a really good transfer class. And then when you look at their schedule, of course, as an SEC schedule, they've got lots of tough games, but they get Florida at home, they get South Carolina at home, they get A&M at home. So a lot of those games where maybe they've, struggled in the past or played a competitive game when you thought that it should have been a blowout, they get a lot of those games at home. So that is beneficial to them. But again, I would recommend that you go read what I've written over on Patreon. Brian Kelly, historically, in his time at Notre Dame and now his time at LSU, has just not done well in the big games. When he's played top 25 competition, he was 1-3 last year, straight up and against the spread in his first year without Jaden Daniels as quarterback there at LSU. And
I guess he was kind of good.
Yeah, he was kind of good. I think Kelly had a 500 record in top 25 games with Daniels there. And like I said, 1-3 last year. But this is a trend with Kelly in that, it was the same thing at Notre Dame. At Notre Dame, he won every single game he was supposed to win and basically never won any of the games that he wasn't supposed to win or where his team was outclassed. So for me, and the other reason why I like this is first game of the season at Clemson, that line's leaking out to 4.5. Clemson's favored by 4.5. Like I said, that game is in South Carolina, but I think LSU's going to lose that game. And so then I'm just looking at this tough SEC schedule and I'm just thinking, hey, Can I find 3 more losses in that schedule? I think with the track record that Brian Kelly has, and, let's not forget, LSU at times last year could not run the ball at all to save their life. They could not run the ball. So I just think even with their great recruiting class they had come in, even with another year of development, I think there's just too many warts on this team. Like I said, could definitely see 9 wins. That's why I want the plus odds. But I just think there is I think this is a good value play, getting plus 135 when anything could happen with half of these LSU games.
And I think it's worth noting, folks, if you've been here with us at any time, you're well aware that we are price sensitive here. And that is because the margins in this industry are so narrow thin. Nobody's making enough money, period. Nobody's making enough money to just say minus 135, minus 125, who cares? I'm not saying you still wouldn't make the bet at both of them, but you have to care about nickels and dimes for sure. Because Jared plus 135 equates to a break even of 42. And that matters because what you're saying is, they're only going to play the games one time. There's only one season. They either will win this or won't, right? But a priori here ahead of time, what's the probability they hit this? And you're saying, hey, I need plus odds because I'm not sure this is 50-50 to hit. I just think it's close enough that it could be, maybe it's 45% or something. Well, if it's 45% and our break even's 43, we're doing good. But if it's 45% and you play at plus 115 or something, now all of a sudden it's a different story and you're not really making a smart play. And so it's great that you mentioned that, especially because we're airing this here. We're recording this on Sunday, August 10th. Most of you going to be watching here pretty soon, but you just never know, especially as we get closer to the first games. Some of these numbers I have seen, they will move 50 cents. And you never know which way they're going to go. So we need those plus odds. If this comes back to a normal range because people are betting this under, then we just say that we missed that boat. We do have one more SEC bet to cover here. I think we're back to you. Auburn under 7.5. The other big plus odds, we got plus 140. Auburn, I feel like, is just like a train wreck I can't keep my eyes away from. There's always something happening these last few years with Auburn and their football team that's fascinating to watch. So, Jake, it sounds like you're thinking it's going to be fascinating to watch in maybe a sad way for Auburn football fans. Tell us why.
Yeah, personally, I think Hugh Freeze has lost a step. I'm not sure he's the man anymore. Jackson Arnold, I don't think he's a savior either, or either of the other transfer quarterbacks that had come in. I don't think the O-line is improved.
Speaking of Oklahoma being confusing.
I don't think the O-line has improved enough to help them cover some of the stuff. I mean, this schedule is brutal. They're going to have to beat, they've got their nonsense opponents. So we don't have to go into that, but you got to get Kentucky, which shouldn't be a problem. And then at Vandy is tough now, apparently. But then 2 more of at Baylor, at Oklahoma, at Texas A&M, at Arkansas is tough just because it's at Arkansas. And then Georgia and Bama. Getting 2 more of those is going to be a stretch for a team that's not as underperformed every year so far since really Cam Newton. So I think it'll just see more of the same, and getting to that 8th win is going to be very, very hard. And I think it'll be very easy to see early on, like especially if they lose to Baylor week 1, this is going to feel like a lot of money in my back pocket already.
Yeah, that Baylor matchup is as a Baylor alum and fan myself, I've got that one circled. It's a Friday night game, and so that one will be huge for this one. Because Jared, I feel like you have a Hugh Freeze take somewhere. I'm going to put you on the spot and say, give me your Hugh Freeze take. I know you got me.
I do have a Hugh Freeze take. And Jake, you said that, they have their give me games, but that's the thing with Hugh Freeze. No game is a give me. I'll be honest though, looking at the schedule.
They aren't playing New Mexico State though, but they are playing Vanderbilt. So
yeah, they got Mercer, South Alabama, Ball State. Completely agree. They should win all of those games. But to me, the biggest thing since Hugh Freeze has been at Auburn, all of his other stops, he was going to lose a game that he shouldn't, but he was definitely going to win a game he shouldn't as well. And you just haven't seen that in his time at Auburn. He still had those kind of inexplicable losses, but he hasn't had any of those signature wins. So, yeah, Jake, I think you described it well. I think he's just lost a step, and Auburn seemingly right back where they've been. Since they
never left.
They won the national championship and let Gus Malzahn go and everything else.
I want to talk real quick about the quarterbacks here. Already mentioned Jackson Arnold. Wasn't bad for Oklahoma. Wasn't what they thought he would be. He was very highly recruited. He still has growth potential, right? How many times have we seen, a guy that's a 5-star recruit like that struggling a year or two and then figure it out? I might be crazy. I'm going to go on record. I'm going to say that Ashton Daniels is actually the better quarterback here. He's the guy from Stanford who I really liked. I thought I always was really impressed by him. I think he was playing. I think Ashton Daniels was playing with a weaker guys with the skill set, guys in the O line. I'm not sure exactly what the model will say when it comes out, but I wouldn't be surprised if the model has Ashton Daniels as better rated than Jackson Arnold, even though Jackson Arnold is going to be the starter. I feel like we might be in for another quarterback controversy situation. I just wouldn't be surprised if Jackson Arnold's not in the exact same boat after 6 games here that he was with Oklahoma, which is he going to get benched? What's going to happen? And that thing kind of following him, because unless he puts it together, which he's got the possibility to, he just hasn't seen.
You know what helps you go over your win total is a quarterback controversy mid-season. That always is beneficial.
Exactly. I mean, there's a reason there's an old saying about if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have 0 quarterbacks. It worked like one with Tim Tebow and Chris Leak, like the only time it ever worked. I feel like or the 2 quarterback thing. Jake, you've got 150 on this one as well. We are going to shift into the Big 12. Cousin Jared, UCF over 5.5 at -120. An interesting pick here from you with regards to one thing that I'm going to say, one thing only, which is Scott Frost is back. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not, because you're banking on a team to make a bowl game. And yes, I know he had a pretty good year with UCF, but also with all the talent at Nebraska with what he did there. Nebraska intimately with some of your coworkers there from a previous life that you lived, where you had some coworkers in the Omaha area. So you going over here for UCF, I'm really curious what you've got to defend yourself on this one.
Well, and I guess it's all Big 12, so I'll work it in. I know a lot of people didn't like Rich Rod going back to West Virginia. I like that hire for West Virginia. I think that's great for them. I was definitely more muted on this. Did not like UCF going back to Scott Frost, but especially during Big 12 Media Day, when you heard some of the things that he said. By the way, this is no reason why I'm making this play to do with Scott Frost, but I'm just telling the story anyway. Hearing some of the things that Scott Frost said at Big 12 Media Day, where he basically, he said some stuff that I'll go into, but his takeaway was, don't take a job if it doesn't feel right, was basically said what he learned from that experience. And before he said that, some of the details of what he was getting to was he ultimately took the Nebraska job because basically everybody else was telling him that he should take the Nebraska job, and not because it's really what he felt was the right thing for him.
Pretty sure you and I said he should take that job too. I think all of us. I think everyone did.
Everybody.
It seemed like a slam dunk.
Said that. Yeah, it did seem like a slam dunk. So I can't fault him for that. But it definitely seems like there was always part of him that was in the back of his mind wondering if it was the right decision or not. So I have turned a little bit on that. Still not sure it was the best hire for them, but hearing some of the things that he said, I've turned on that a little bit. Now, going back to the Big 12, the way that I looked at the Big 12 when I was assessing the season win totals, I said, who's the highest and I want to go under, and who's the lowest and I want to go over. That was basically what I want to do with the Big 12, because like always, I think the Big 12 is going to be really unpredictable. The team with the lowest win total is Oklahoma State, and I nixed that because I also am very low on Oklahoma State, another team that I've written a little bit about. Again, go read the full thing. Is this going to be Gundy's last year in Stillwater? I don't know. It's possible. But just looking at the way the schedules fall for the Big 12, the big thing with UCF is they don't have to play Utah, who I think is going to be pretty good.
Sure.
And I think they have a very advantageous home schedule. So they get the first 2 games of the season probably give me games. Then they get North Carolina.
Not only that, they're Jackson State, North Carolina, A&T. They're not just gimme games. I mean, they're like the gimmiest of gimme games. It's not even like an accidental.
Well, it's Jacksonville State, who went to a bowl game last year. They lost Rich Rod. They lost their starting quarterback, Tyler Huff. So I think Jacksonville State is going to be in a much worse position. We'll talk about Conference USA here later. But so they get North Carolina at home. They get Kansas, who sneakily Lance Leipold, on his 3rd offensive coordinator in 3 years, lost their star running back. They get West Virginia at home. They get Houston at home. They get Oklahoma State at home. Where I'm going with this is some of the other bottom teams of the Big 12, or let's just say lower half, mid to lower half Big 12 teams, UCF is getting all of those games at home. And so I think that sets up well for them to beat a West Virginia, beat a Houston, beat a Oklahoma State. And at that point, you just need to win one of those other kind of toss-up games on your schedule. So Again, nothing to do with Scott Frost. Really, just more about how the schedule falls for UCF.
And I'm going to add in Cincinnati is a very winnable game.
Yep.
At BYU happens at the end of the season, and BYU is a team that sometimes here has struggled with depth. I don't know exactly how that's going to play, but they've sometimes struggled with that. If they have injury problems, that could become a game that looks better to have at the back of the schedule. The schedule sets up very favorably to them.
And North Carolina early in the season, I would rather play North Carolina early than later.
I don't know with the whole Belichick thing. I honestly have no idea what that leads to there. The Frost thing, like you said, I think I hadn't heard that, and that's very interesting because otherwise you look at it and you think what he did in the Big Ten with all those resources has to be concerning. If you want to spin on the positive side, it's not just that he's won there, it's that he's probably going to have better offensive weapons now than he did at Nebraska. And the defensive part is something that, was their big bugaboo last year and in the last couple of years. And if he can get that turned around at all, they've got a chance to be mediocre. Hey, only over 5.5. You just got to be mediocre here. Minus 124 in this one. You've got 120 to 100, which takes us to the Big Ten. This one's going to get interesting here. I think these next few picks on this one. Penn State over 10.5. You're getting plus 110. You're putting 150 on it as well here. But Penn State is a team that consistently is going to lose to Oregon. They're going to lose to Ohio State. They're going to lose these big games. How are they going to get to 11 wins? I think is the first question you got to answer to tell people why they should be backing the over 10.5 here, even at plus odds.
Well, I mean, Franklin's got this pattern going where he wins those games if he's favored and loses if he's not. Currently projected favorite over Oregon, lose at Ohio State. So with those, you're good because the rest of the schedule is, especially the non-conference, is just a joke. But you return probably one of the best QBs out there in college football, along with probably the best running back duo with Allen and Singleton. You lose your football player because you can't really call him a tight end because he did everything. Tyler Warren.
Literally everything.
The dude was just incredible. Happy he's here in Indy, but sad that it's Daniel Jones and Richardson throwing to him. But, I think from a receiving standpoint, bringing in Pena, Ross, and Hudson should be able to pick up the slack. The three guys for the one. The defense is – Penn State's defense is – you can always count on that being great upper level. So I don't think they'll have any trouble out in the Big Ten outside of Oregon and Ohio State. And we just got to win one of those, and we get to 11 because everything else in the schedule is just should be a cakewalk for them.
Yeah, I mean, you've got obviously a team like Iowa at home is going to be trying to throw an upset at them. I mean, you're going to need a miracle, I feel like, to be.
If that was reversed at Iowa, then I'm a little more nervous. But since that one's at home.
Okay, yeah. The Oregon one, I think, like you said, is interesting. They're the team that I think people are expecting to take a little bit of a step back from last year. Obviously, a top team. I was at the Big Ten title game here, and Oregon was just a different class of team last year. But that was then, and this is now. And a lot of people are looking at Penn State saying they're actually as good as Ohio State now. They're on the same level with them, and that Oregon kind of almost is flipped now, and Oregon's more like where Penn State was last year. Very, very good, just not quite good enough. Jared, you mentioned Kansas losing offensive coordinators. We had talked about this a lot, that we expected Penn State's offense last year to take a big jump because we knew they got the offensive coordinator from Kansas. And sure enough, that happened. And Penn State looked like they had a pulse on offense. They still struggled a little bit at times scoring against some of the top defenses. They struggled a little bit scoring in that Ohio State game. Leaps and bounds better than what they had been before. And like we said, Drew Aller, of course. I haven't looked at the Heisman odds, but I have to assume one of the front runners for that award. So a lot of good things happening there in Happy Valley. Maybe this is the year they can kind of get over the hump. It feels like they've been right on the cusp for so long.
It feels like this 12-team playoff was designed to keep Franklin in a job. Like, that's what it feels like.
And look, I'm going to give because you already gave a lukewarm take. My lukewarm take is like, be happy with Franklin as your coach. Like, I don't care if they never win the Big Ten, but if they consistently win 10, 11 games and make the playoff every year, which they should be able to, what they've been doing, like, that's really good. Because of Jared, as an Aggie fan, I feel like you know what it's like to have a coach who is very good and then want more and then go through coaching purgatory for a decade because you weren't happy with 9-2 every year. Whatever that was. One of many fan bases who've had that issue. Actually, the next pick is going to be a fan base that had that issue. Nebraska over 7.5. They finally made the hire that they should have made a long time hire, of course, when they hired Matt Rule as a former Baylor, coach. I always was impressed with him. We're going to go over 7.5 here. I didn't put the price at there, minus 145. So we've got a little bit of juice to pay on this one. Because Jared, 8 wins or more for this Nebraska team, absolutely doable. I want to start you off with the minus 145. How are we stomaching that? That's a big juice to lay for the full season. How high are we playing it up to? What's your pricing thoughts first?
Yeah, minus 150 is it. I'm not going over minus 150 on this play. And you talked about another fan base. Nebraska created that. They were the one who got rid of Frank Solich after, fairly soon after playing for the national championship. They got rid of Bo Pelini, which, who can really fault them for getting rid of Bo Pelini? But he had like 3 straight 9-3 seasons or something like that. So yeah, Nebraska is just at the top tier.
I thought it might have even been 4. It was whatever it was. It looked back in hindsight. I feel like Nebraska fans had to be like, man, those are the good years.
Yeah, exactly. So the reason I like this play for Nebraska is a couple of reasons. And I know this hasn't been the case for at least a season or two now, but got to keep in mind the Big Ten schedule is not the East and West. It's not the leaders and legends anymore. It is kind of a rotating schedule. And so there are going to be seasons where the schedules are definitely unbalanced, because if you get to miss Ohio State, if you get to miss Penn State, that's going to be a very valuable thing for you. Nebraska gets to miss both Ohio State and Penn State and Oregon. They do not have to play either of those 3 teams. So that is the number one thing that I would point out. The second thing is you really need to go back and look at Nebraska's 2024 season. And Ohio State absolutely wrecked their season. Prior to playing Ohio State, they played Indiana. Clearly, Nebraska was looking ahead to Ohio State. This was before we realized how good Indiana was. Indiana thumped them in a look-ahead spot. Nebraska played a very, very good game against Ohio State, covered, lost by 4 points or something like that, played a very good game. But then predictably came back, lost at home to UCLA in a letdown spot the next week, then had to fly out to Los Angeles and play USC on a Friday night right after that, and also lost that game. That Ohio State game just completely threw a wrench in Nebraska's entire season. So I will go back to, if they can just avoid a complete collapse caused by one single game like that. And again, none of those big teams are on Nebraska's schedule. So they start off the season with Cincinnati. Spoiler alert, we'll talk about Cincinnati later. 2 give-me games. They have Michigan at home.
Is that a neutral site game?
That is a neutral site game, I believe. They're playing at Arrowhead in Kansas City. They do have Michigan at home, 4th game of the season. Definitely a tough game. I would rather play Michigan early.
But the good news is they get a bye before that with Houston Christian, and they get a literal bye after that. So they at least don't have the Ohio State thing won't happen again to them this year.
Yes, that is correct. And then I do not think you will find a better Big Ten schedule through the majority of the season. Michigan State at Maryland, at Minnesota, Northwestern, USC at home, and at UCLA. I mean, this is just as easy as a Big Ten schedule is going to get.
You did miss the last 2 weeks where they have to play at Penn State and then Iowa, but hopefully it's in the bag by then.
Yes, hopefully it's in the bag by that point.
We need it in the bag. We don't. If we're counting on those for 8 wins, we're in trouble. We need to get 8 before that, and then we go to the bye week and we don't care. We're done.
Yep, and I don't think they're going to beat Penn State in Happy Valley, but that Iowa game at home, I will be the first to acknowledge Nebraska has had a terrible time with Iowa, but they were going to win the last game at home, and then they threw an interception with like 30 seconds left, and Iowa returned it for like 30 yards and kicked a 50-yard field goal to win it as time expired. That's, Iowa doing Iowa things, but Nebraska has a chance in that.
The ending of that game was crazier than that, if I recall. I think it was like Iowa was driving and going to win, and then turned it over, and then Nebraska then turned it. It was the ending.
That's
of that
exactly
was
what happened, because I was happy when Iowa turned the ball over. We were back in Iowa. I was happy when Iowa turned the ball over, because I said, I have more faith in Iowa's defense to win this game than I do Iowa's offense. And sure enough, Iowa's defense and special teams came through as they always do. So Nebraska's not beating Penn State 50-50 on that Iowa game, but hopefully it's in the bag by that point.
Yeah, at that point we've got, we'll say realistically here, 9 shots on goal, because even though the Michigan game, we got to get 8 out of 9, but that sounds daunting, but I'm not sure who I'm scared of in the 8 out of 9. I mean, the scariest game is USC. That's at home.
Yep.
I mean, that's not that scary.
I actually think the scariest game is Michigan, but again,
no, I'm saying I was counting Michigan as a loss. But I'm saying, well, even if they don't win Michigan, they just got to win 8 out of 9.
Yep.
That seems very doable, because It's a pretty weak schedule there as well, which is probably why there's some juice. But again, be careful in the juice. People, we were saying minus 150 is our limit here. If you're, shop around, of course, always find the best number. If you're seeing minus 160, just do something else with your money. We don't want to hold our money up, all season long for that. We're going to come back to the Big Ten here, stay in the Big Ten here with Ohio State. Jake, you're going to go under 10.5, minus 135 odds. You're putting $100 on this one. Ohio State, we could have done, because we could have done a whole episode on Ohio State. I mean, the way their season finished, how disappointing everything was, and then just go out and then, whatever they did in the playoff, I can't remember.
Yeah.
I guess it was cool for them. What a weird way that played out. Jake, you're going to go under on the 10.5. Are you expecting any hangover, or are you looking at the schedule, some regression? What's the angle here?
A little bit of regression, but I just think the schedule catches them here. Like 10, I think they get 10 wins in the playoff. Like, it's not like I'm thinking they're going 6-6 or something crazy. I mean, starting with Texas, that could be very tough depending on your view of Texas. Then from like September 27th to November 1st, that is a gauntlet. You like at Washington, who should be improved. At Illinois I like Illinois a lot this year, and then Penn State, and you have mixed in Minnesota and at Wisconsin, and then you finish it up with at Michigan, which Ryan Day just cannot figure out Michigan for his life. It's half the reason that everybody was talking about firing him last year, and then he wins the championship to save his job. But I don't know. I just think the schedule catches up with him. You're not. I think the quarterback and, of course, Smith are great offensive players, and the defense will probably be good and everything like that. It's just I just don't think they can pull a rabbit out of a hat here with the lack of experience they have at the quarterback position. In some of these tight games, like Penn State should be a big game. Michigan will always be a big game. At Illinois can be tough because if I remember correctly, Illinois gave them a heck of a game a year or two ago. Maybe we should have had them beat. So I think some of those games are going to go the coin flips there that they won. They're going to go the opposite way, and I just need really one extra one to go the wrong way.
Yeah, this number at 10.5 is very interesting to me because they have 3 very losable games. Obviously, as you mentioned, Texas, Penn State, and then at Michigan, and then like you said, at Illinois, at Wisconsin. I mean, there's some possibility here of something else going on. I also don't know what to make of their quarterback situation at this point because we haven't really seen a lot from Julian Sayin, played mop-up duty. We've seen him on tape. We've seen him on the spring game, right? We know he's a 5-star recruit, but how many 5-star recruits have we already talked about in this show, mentioned that have flopped, right? So that's the other big asterisk here. And I'm not saying that he won't be great because he absolutely has all the potential to be. It does make me wonder if you're thinking about the opposite side of this bet, the over 10.5, that's a lot of faith to put into a quarterback situation that is a little bit of a question mark, I think, and even a defensive side that I think is a little bit of a question mark. They were so dang good last year, and that's what led them at the end, to be able to win it all. The problem is they lost the coordinator. What does that mean? I don't know, right? Again, it's like you got some question marks here. Because Jared, we're going to be, 1 week from now, we have our week 0 show. 2 weeks from today, we'll have our week 1 show, and we'll absolutely be talking about Ohio State, Texas, because that game's going to be everyone's eyeballs on it, of course, and then impactful for this game. And of course, Penn State, Ohio State, Jake, that'll impact 2 of your bets. So a lot riding there. This is where we're going to take a little bit of a side detour, and we're going to go to a prop bet. Cousin Jared, back to you. Sticking at Ohio State, you've got Jeremiah Smith to lead the Big Ten in receiving yards at plus 350. And you're going to put $100 on this one. So it's not just a little nickel and dime here, but plus 350 in a full, I'm going to call it unit because you've got about 10 bets at $1,000. We'll call that a normal 1 unit bet at plus 350. So what are you seeing here? Other than I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I mean, Jeremiah Smith is he's good. I don't need to tell anybody that. Outside of Arch Manning, I think everybody says he's the best. If he were even eligible to go into the draft, he would be the best prospect in the draft. Somehow he still has 2 more years of college football. Honestly, I was expecting this number to be more like plus 150, and I can't believe I'm getting plus 350. I think they are going to force feed him the ball. I think the other 2 things that I would say, first one is the Big Ten, more than most other conferences, there are only a handful of teams that play a style of football that's going to allow themselves to have a receiver in the conversation for the most receiving yards. So that is part of it. The other part of it is that I didn't realize this. Kirk Cignetti was the wide receivers coach at Alabama. I don't know, back when Julio Jones was there. And during his Big Ten media days, I don't even know if it was prompted or what the question was. The question wasn't say the nicest possible thing that you can about Jeremiah Smith, but somehow Kirk Cignetti made the comment of, he's the best wide receiver I've ever seen in person. And somebody was like, didn't you coach Julio Jones? He's like, yeah, I coached Julio Jones. I think Jeremiah Smith's a little bit more flexible, a little faster. And so
And
just
like,
the fact that, yeah,
just
the fact that somebody who coached Julio Jones, like, no, Jeremiah Smith, definitely better than Julio Jones was. I'm rolling with Kirk Cignetti that he knows what he's talking about. And Jeremiah Smith is just an absolute beast.
And obviously, no one would doubt Cignetti knows his stuff. Brilliant coach there.
And there's not a ton out there, Big Ten wise, that you're scared of taking over that spot. Looking at last year, you got Tyler Warren that finished second, who's no longer there, and had 30 more catches and was about 100 yards short of him. And it's like he had 20 less catches than the rest of the top four and had them all by hundreds of yards. It's not like this is a gimme kind of bet. It feels like.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're padding his stats, especially in those early gimme games, to try to get him the Heisman. Because Jared recently purchased a PlayStation 5, so I could play some college football 2026 or whatever year we're making up, calling it. And that's what we would do, right? We were playing back in the days.
Yep.
Let's run backwards so that a touchdown pass is a 90-yard pass, and make sure we always have the same guy. We got to get him the Heisman.
Yep.
And that's honestly what you could do with some of these games, with how talented they are. The caveat that I have here, the only thing is, A, we just talked about quarterback. Don't really know what's going to happen there. B,
health.
They lost a couple of really good running backs, two amazing running backs, and how's that going to play out? Is that going to allow defenses to really focus in and try to stop him? The reason I don't think it's going to be successful is I don't think they can stop him, even if they're trying. Yeah. And then I think at some point, the other reason is I'm actually not even thinking, I think their running game is going to take a little bit of a step back. And I don't think they can replace that. I think they can replace what they lost a little bit better in wide receiver. They lost their all-time leading receiving leader in Emeka Egbuka, but what they have is still two other 5-star guys.
Yeah.
They're like more 4-star guys than you can count. And so it's like they're going to have so many weapons that even if teams are like, hey, we don't have to worry as much about the running game, we can stop these receivers. It's like, good luck. What are you going to do? And at some point, that's when Jeremiah Smith's going to get loose and he's going to have a 70-yard touchdown and then a 40-yard touchdown, and boom, there's just 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. And you're like, I tried to stop this guy and he still did that.
Yeah.
It's like how it's going to play out. It feels like.
There's the meme that's like, this was the Ohio State receiver room in whatever year it was. And it's got like Chris Olave and Jackson Smith-Jigba and, all these guys that we've talked about. And the thing is, that meme, it doesn't go out of style because there's always another receiver. They just do a new picture the next year with the next guy. And so, I think that's exactly what it's going to be this year.
Yeah, exactly. So that's as long as they can get enough of a running game and anything happening at the quarterback position, and he stays healthy.
Healthy.
You should be feeling really good about those, and especially at this price. I'm like you, I thought it'd been priced lower just because the Big Ten isn't really known for its passing prowess. I mean, maybe a Penn State guy will emerge, but I feel like that's not really the style of that coordinator. His style is get everyone involved, make it work for his players, and that's not feed one guy, right? So I'm like, where is it going to come from?
Well, so the way this one loses is USC has one guy. USC finds one guy in Lincoln Riley's offense. I don't know if they have that guy, or I think they'll be a more run heavy team, maybe more so than some Lincoln Riley teams have been. But I think that's the way this loses. USC finds one guy.
Yeah, and Lincoln Riley would be the guy who would just feed him over and over and say, because he's the type who he finds something and he says, you can't beat me. And if he's got the talent, he's right. And that's when his teams have been good. The problem is when he hasn't been talents, when they've struggled. But we'll move out of the Big Ten, even though that's weird to talk about USC there. For our next bet, we will go to Cincinnati here. This one I thought was interesting, under 6.5 for 2 reasons. Number one, first off, it is -140, a little bit of a juice, but you've got $200 on it. But for 2 reasons, number one, when we go back to the 2023 contest, Cousin Jared, you had Cincinnati under 5.5. They went 2-7 to start the season. I stopped keeping track. I don't know what they did those last games because I stopped in my records because I was like, it doesn't matter. Yeah. This is so embarrassingly bad and easy for you as the winner. And then when we were talking about these games, Jake, you did this out, and Cousin Jared, you said you liked that one. And so You had Cincinnati under 2 years ago at work. You like this one. So, Jake, it seems like this one's getting a strong show endorsement here. You haven't even said a word yet to justify it. Hopefully you can back up because I'm setting you up to really hit this one out of.
To me, it's all about the hook, right? I think they're six, like that seventh game, they're going to struggle. Because they've got to get 4 of Arizona, Baylor, BYU, Iowa State, at Kansas, Nebraska, at Oklahoma State, at TCU, and UCF, right? I can see 2 of those, one probably with at Oklahoma State, but like that's your easiest team you're fighting, and you have to go there. It's in the Big 12. That's always crazy. I think the schedule just played out terribly for them. I'm not a fan of Sorsby at the quarterback. Way too many turnovers. Don't think they did enough to address the line issues and anything to help him not make as many turnovers. It's just that 7th game is going to be very, very, very tough. I don't see him ever getting it. It wouldn't surprise me if this one landed at a similar record to 2-7.
Wow. And because, Jared, I know you and I were not high on the coaching hire that they made there. Jake mentioned it with Sorsby. He was very okay. The fact that he went to the portal and then came back, I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's ever.
I don't think it's good. I hope it's good for him, right? We never wish ill will in any situation, but in general, that tends to mean you think you're better than you are, and then you get rejected. And then what does that mean? Maybe that lights a fire under you. I don't know, but weird situation all around. I feel like if you're Cincinnati, 6 wins and getting to a bowl game, that's a successful season. Mm-hmm. And so they can have a successful season and we can still have a successful bet. Because, Jared, I wanted to throw it to you since you said you liked it. Do you have anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, I don't think Scott Satterfield is it. So I love the play. The differentiation between that play and the UCF play that I talked about with the Big 12 was just the odds. 140 was just like, it was just, I couldn't quite get it. I saw the minus 120 odds on UCF. I'm like, I'm more comfortable with that. But yeah, fully get an endorsement. If I had to pick one of Jake's plays to back, this is the one that I like the most.
This is one of the most maddening things as a Big 12 fan is that sometimes the schedule sets up perfect for the wrong team. And what I mean by that is if Cincinnati was better, this schedule sets up for them to run the table because there's not a truly tough game on the schedule. And yet they're so mediocre, it sets up where they might accidentally go, like you said, with a 4-8 or whatever, something ridiculous because there's also just a lot of losable games on the schedule. And so it's like, it's who you're getting at home and road, who's in and out the wrong year. And it's like, man, when my team's better, I want this. When my team's worse, I want this. And it does set up to be a little bit tougher for them. We're going to get out of the power conferences real quick. We're going to come back to it because the ACC is where we're going to really go off the rails at the end. So you want to stick around for that. But getting out of that into Western Kentucky for our next pick here. Over 7.5 at minus 125 odds because you're putting 125 onto this one to win 100. 8 wins in a conference with, I assume, 8 teams, but when you look at how many of them are good at football, that answer is definitely not 8. It's definitely a whole lot less than 8.
Yeah. And actually, Conference USA has 10 teams, and that is a very important thing because as we've talked about many times here, I'm going to tell you to go look at the schedule. Conference USA plays 8 games. There's 10 teams. So there is one team that every team gets to miss. One team misses one team. Western Kentucky gets to miss Liberty. And so that is a very important aspect of this because when you look at Jacksonville State was really good last year, lost Rich Rod, lost their quarterback. Sam Houston was really good last year, lost their head coach, lost their quarterback. Yeah. So I think really it's Liberty, Western Kentucky, and everybody else in Conference USA. And so we need to get over 7.5, but there is one game. They play at LSU on November 22nd. I don't think Western Kentucky is going to win that game.
No, I don't think so.
Every other game, even their non-conference schedule, they've got North Alabama, Toledo, Missouri State. Hell, Missouri State may be in the Conference USA now. I don't even know. Actually, I think they are. But anyway, there are a lot. All of these games are winnable. The other thing I'll say about Western Kentucky is they've had a lot of stability in coaching. Tyson Helton entering like his 7th season at Western Kentucky. They're a known quantity. A lot of these Conference USA teams, they're turning over their entire coaching staff every 3 years or so. Of course, with the transfer portal now, they're just getting ravaged. If they have any good player is getting going somewhere else. Western Kentucky lost a lot of players, but they have the infrastructure in place. And when you look at the recruits that are coming into Western Kentucky, it's a lot of guys that are leaving, Boston College or leaving Virginia Tech or leaving bigger schools to come get more playing time, as opposed when you look at, not to pick on Sam Houston, but I'll pick on Sam Houston here for a second. They're taking a bunch of guys from the FCS ranks that played well in the FCS, but kind of moving on up. I've kind of liked the way that Western Kentucky is going about bringing in their transfers. So for me, this is about the schedule and about the infrastructure that Western Kentucky has in place. I think they're going to be what they've been every year for the past handful of years, which is a 8 or 9 win team.
I have so much to dive into on this pick and Conference USA because this is our bread and butter here, is doing the weird things that other people don't want to talk about. But first off, I had mentioned this, I think, to our Discord, Maverick McIver. You talked about the FCS thing, did come from Holy Cross, where he tore it up, but came from Texas Tech before that. So kind of to your point almost, yes, he's coming up from the FCS, but he came from Tech. It's not like he was a nobody or whatever. He just, and at Tech, he couldn't maybe hack it at the Big 12. That's fine. He doesn't need to play at that level to be successful at Western Kentucky, right? It's you're talking about Conference USA, which is one of the worst conferences out there. I love what he did at Holy Cross. I think he instantly becomes the best quarterback in this conference, unless I'm blanking on someone. I think he's got a great chance to be, first team all Conference USA quarterback. You talked about the infrastructure and them being a model of consistency and everything. I will counter one thing. I do think they're going to be probably 6-ish point dogs at Toledo, if I had to guess. 4 to 6. I would say it's going to be more than a field goal. So that one, even if we chalk that up as a loss, though, and of course LSU, which is a for sure loss, there's really not a lot else that's scary. Maybe Louisiana Tech, because it's a road game, maybe is a little scary. FIU last year played like randomly 4 really good games and then was like the worst team ever for like 5 games. And so you don't know what you're getting from that, but they're going to have a lot of games to win. Absolutely. So getting to 8 seems pretty reasonable, or minus 120. One thing I do want to talk about before we move on, though, Sam Houston State, one of my other alums, my Sam Houston State degree is that one, actually. The Baylor one's over wherever. They have a new head coach, Phil Longo, who was fired as a coordinator and then gets the head coaching job of an FBS school. I don't think I've ever seen that happen. That's a very interesting.
Well, I mean, it's a
It's a good interview.
Good interview.
Yeah, it's not the same situation. It's almost Scott Frost-ish because Longo was the OC at one point, wasn't he? At San Houston,
he was for 3 years, and it was a very successful run.
Yes.
So
yes, it was. It was.
Yes, it's still weird though. I still don't quite understand how that happens. The last thing, and you mentioned this, you wrote about this on Patreon, Sam Houston playing 2 games before most teams will even play 1 is a whole other thing too. New coach, new system, playing all these games early. And one of those games there in week 0 is Western Kentucky. That's a huge advantage for Western Kentucky to play
100%.
A Sam Houston team based in Texas, which means you've got all the recruiting pipeline there. You've got all the FCS schools in the world transferring into you, like we talked about here with the kid from Abilene Christian, Holy Cross. He was at Tech, right? So you got all these transfer possibilities from above you, below you to Sam Houston. They've got the infrastructure. Even though it's a new coach, it's one who's been there before, and yet you get them on week 0 when they haven't figured anything out yet is a big advantage, because a team like Sam Houston might be one that starts turning it around later in the season, and you're a little bit more afraid of them. But this one works out where you wouldn't have to worry about that. So a lot of positive things there. Jake, we're going to stick to the small school route here, go USF. Now we're into the American, not the American Athletic anymore. It is no longer the AAC. It is the American. That is how they've abbreviated it. USF over 6.5 minus 130. Jake, you've got 150 on this one.
I love Alex Gullish. Loved him at UT. He was a real big part of that Hendon Hooker run. And he's won 14 games over the last 2 years of a school that just doesn't seem to really care about football that much. They were doing very well last year, and then Bryden Brown breaks his leg, the quarterback, and that's where the season kind of fell off. So they should have him back at about 100%. I love this receiving core with Singleton, Alexis, and Rubin, and then they brought in Nimrod from Tennessee that Golish recruited to Tennessee. So, he already likes him. This really comes down to beating 2 of Boise State, at Memphis, at Navy, at North Texas, and UTSA. Unless by some miracle they beat Florida or Miami or both, then I don't have to worry about any of those other games. But because Charlotte, FAU, Rice,
I don't like your chances.
Yeah. Charlotte, FAU, Rice, South Carolina State, and UAB are. I'm not worried about those, but I think Memphis is probably questionable at Boise State, but I think Navy and North Texas and UTSA getting 2 or 3 of those is most likely going to happen, because as long as everybody stays healthy, because Gilish seems to just win 7 games a year at this school, and he's done that since he's been there, really. So getting 6.5 at minus 130 seems like printing free money.
The go-go offense there, we've got the go-go offense out at UNLV, and then they've got the go-go offense there at USF as well. They ran a play every 20 seconds last year, which was fastest in the nation.
I am winded.
He was the coordinator for Tennessee for that Hendon Hooker team that should have been in the playoffs, that he breaks his leg or tears his ACL in the South Carolina game. I mean, they handled Bama. Jalen Hyatt came out of nowhere and was a star.
They're gonna have a rough start to the season. This one's gonna look scary, especially if they lose that Boise game, which is probably gonna be I'm sure the line's out there, so someone could post this in the comments. My hunch is it's probably gonna be around to pick them, if I had to guess, somewhere in the 50-50 range. If they lose that one and then you lose at Florida, you lose at Miami, like you said, then things get a whole lot nicer for them. A couple of tough games in the middle, but a bye week separates the Memphis and UTSA games, and that could be huge. And then finishing with a couple of easier winners down the stretch. Some good things possible there for USF. And then, like you said, you kind of just need something lucky early, something in the middle, and then we're good. We don't need all the things to happen. We just need one or two of them to happen. Sticking in the American, Cousin Jared, Rice, new coach for them, over 3.5. We're laying minus 150. I have to say, one of my favorite head coaching hires here, when you get a guy from the FCS ranks who, get this, Davidson had won 9 games in 7 seasons before Scott Abel got to Davidson. That's insanely bad to win 9 games in 7 seasons. And I know that if you're an FCS school, you typically have the 1 game a year. You have to go get beaten up by North Carolina or whoever that they would be playing. But they usually, if you're FCS, you typically get a bye game from a D2 school as well, the other way around. And you're getting a freebie. How you only won 9 games in 7 seasons, and then this guy makes the playoffs 3 straight years? Who knows what's going to happen? But these FCS coaches who can do that there, we see it North Dakota State. You know, that guy going to Kansas State, what he's done there. We see all the time these successful FCS coaches coming up. Love that here for Rice. All the talent in the world is backyard. Being in Houston, Rice has long struggled to put it together to make it more than anything other than a flash in the pan. But does Rice finally have the guy to make them a reputable football team, Cousin Jared, or are we just hoping for 4 and out?
Oh, no. We're definitely just hoping for 4 on this. And definitely minus 150 is my limit here, not going above minus 150. This team won 4 games last season. We're just asking them to do the same thing again, and they get to avoid Army, which Army without Bryson Daly, maybe they take a step back, but maybe even the bigger deal, they get to avoid Tulane in the American this year, so that's really important for them. They're playing Prairie View A&M. That's going to be a win. I mean, you just look at the schedule, and it's just like Charlotte, Navy, Florida Atlantic, UConn, UAB, North Texas. They're just all of these games that I think with Scott Abel's offense, so he runs a shotgun-based triple option offense. So it is a lot of the ground and pound. There are going to be probably more similarities to a service academy than maybe any other offense that's currently out there in college football. And I think that is going to kind of like decrease the variance, have a lower standard deviation of, how Rice is going to play. And in the American, that's all you need, because some of these teams are going to find ways to beat themselves. And basically, I just think Rice is going to be a fundamentally sound team that's going to run the ball, keep the other team's offense off the field, and win 4 games. I just think that is the type of team that they're going to be. They're not going to be flashy, but they're not going to beat themselves.
And honestly, that Houston game, week 2, they're home for that game. And Rice versus Houston, weird things happen in that game. If you go back and look at the years, there's been only a couple of years where Rice has had any bit of a chance in that game coming in. There's been a couple of years where Rice had a good player or two, and they, I think they made a bowl at some point here recently. For the most part, Rice has been really bad. Houston's been much better. And yet the number of times they've taken them to overtime, or they've either pulled the upset or they've kept it close, is way more than it should have happened. And so even something like that, like you talked about, that's week 2. You've got 1 game of tape on this new option. Cousin Jared, this attack feels a little bit like what Army did with Bryson Daly more at the start of last season. They kind of went a little bit more to the run at the end, but they did a lot more passing at the start, and passing for them, right? Not passing in general. But it kind of feels like that here, where it's going to be that 75% run, 70% run, which is way higher than average. You know, most schools don't top off more than 60. Even then, that's pretty rare. And they're going to do a lot of that, but enough passing to keep you off balance, a weirder attack, a different attack, and that's going to throw some teams off potentially. You know, they're going to get thumped in a couple of these games. Yep. Like you said, we just got to win 4 of them. We don't have to be flashy about it. Rice over 3.5 there, minus 140 or minus 150. You've got 150 on that. We are to the ACC. Things aren't going off the rails yet, but they will soon. Jake, we're going to start off here. Back to you. Your last pick here, NC State over 6.5 wins at plus 110. You're putting $100 on this one. Tell us more.
Like, this is wild. I was looking at this, right into this fun fact. They started college football in 1892 and have one double-digit winning season, and that was in 2002. So it's like, a few hundred years of college football and win 11 games once is crazy. Dorn is a good coach, not great, nothing special, good. Returns a bunch of talent from a 7-loss year. 4 of those 7 were 1 score losses, and then the Duke game was really tight up until like the last 22 seconds or something stupid. Like, CJ Bailey should improve tremendously, as he was a true freshman starting last year because Grayson McCall gets hurt early on, and then he comes in. They did lose. Like, Jared is cheating and trying to make me lose this contest by stealing the best receiver out of them with Conception. But Justin Jolly, Noah Rogers, and Wesley Grimes all come back. And with Bailey improved, the offense should take a big step up. Hollywood Smothers is a underrated running back that people aren't talking about, averaging about 6 yards a carry last year. I think he's going to be very consistent. The offense is going to be good. Defense is, I'm hoping for a massive improvement. I mean, they were very inconsistent last year, gave up a ton of points to some good teams, and then did very well against bad teams. If that keeps up, I think the 7 wins is very much on the table. And if they improve at all, I think 7 wins is very easy for this team. Because, I mean, you get no Clemson, no LSU, no SMU, and no Louisville. Very easily could be 5-1 to start the season, and then just need to, not really going to include Notre Dame in there, but Notre Dame, Pitt, Georgia Tech, Miami, Florida State, North Carolina. If you can get 2 of those, probably Georgia Tech and Pitt was probably the easiest route there. Or good. And then, I mean, who knows what you get out of North Carolina, and if Notre Dame's having an off year, could steal that one too. I think the team is not being talked about enough for being a pretty decent squad that could ruin somebody's playoff chances.
The North Carolina game being the last week of the season, like I said, I don't know what to make of this Bill Belichick thing. It feels like there's a chance that things just get better and better as the season goes along, and his system works and everything. But I feel like there's a chance it goes off the rails. I mean, could this be like the reverse Nick Saban, where he, quits the Dolphins job in the middle of the season? Like, I'm not saying he would do that necessarily, but like, we have no idea if this is going to work. And so weird things could happen by the end of the season. So that game could look really winnable or not by then. I don't know. But you mentioned start the season 5-1. And I would definitely agree with that. And I would say, I mean, you get an outside shot at 6-1. The at Duke game, they're only going to be probably field goal favorites or field goal dogs in that one, I would imagine. If you accidentally get 6-0 to start the season, sure, they're losing the next one Notre Dame before the bye week, but then you get a bye week to then regroup for Pitt and Georgia Tech. I mean, those first, they really got a shot to win 8 of the 9, and you only got to get 7 of them, and then you don't have to care. And as long as you get 6 of them, then at least you still got a fighting shot where, sure, they're going to lose at Miami, but then you close with home games against Florida State and North Carolina, and they could win either one of those too. You don't really know. So a lot of ways to get to the win. I always love when you have multiple paths to win at plus odds. Because, Jared, we're back to you now. Wake Forest over 4.5 wins, plus 115. Another coaching change here, having to replace a legend there at Wake Forest for a guy who was there for seemingly forever. How do you think that's gone so far?
So it's gonna be tough. Oh, and by the way, before we leave NC State, the quarterback of that 2002 team at NC State is Phillip Rivers. So that partially why they won 10 games. Had a good quarterback there. So this is a tough situation for sure for Jake Dickert coming over from Washington State. Mostly because he unfortunately does not get to bring his quarterback with him from Washington State. He ended up going to Oklahoma here, went to Oklahoma. So, clearly Oklahoma, a team like Oklahoma thinks highly enough of him to bring him in to be the smart starter. Clearly he's pretty good. So that is a loss for Jake Dickert not to bring his quarterback with him. But Dickert did, in my opinion, a wonderful job with everything that happened around Washington State, which we're going way back here, but Rolovich having the whole COVID vaccine thing and the big distraction that was for the team. Dickert came in, handled that well, and then it was Washington State. The Pac-12's falling apart. You're kind of one of the teams left with nowhere to go. He handled that really well. All of this time keeping Washington State relevant and playing well on the football field. So I think he is a solid coach, even with, maybe not much to work with at Wake Forest. He's kind of like I mentioned about Rice. I think he's going to put this team in a position to not lose games is what I would say. So now let's flip over to the schedule here. We're going over 4.5. Kudos to Wake Forest out of conference scheduling, knowing that they need as many wins as they possibly can. They've got Kennesaw State, who was terrible last year. They've got Western Carolina, and they've got Delaware, who's in their first year as an FBS team. So I think we've got 3 wins on the out of conference slate. We just need Wake Forest to win 2 ACC games. Now, let's keep in mind, this is the conference where there was at one point a way that like every ACC team could finish 4-4, or every team could finish 5-4 and 4-5, something like that. This conference just has a way of, we talk about the Big 12 being the conference where any team can beat any other team. The ACC may actually have more, examples of that actually happening. So I talked about those 3 out of conference games. If you look at their conference schedule, you've got at Virginia Tech, you've got Oregon State is another out-of-conference game going to Oregon State. That's a tough travel spot, but Oregon State has been down since Smith left. You got Virginia, you got North Carolina, you got Duke. All these Carolina schools in the ACC, those are rivalry games every way that you cut them. So I think higher variability in those Carolina-based games. I just like the out-of-conference schedule here. I think it's 3 fairly easy wins, and then I've just got to win 2 in a conference that's known for its parity. And I think they have a good head coach.
And like you said with the parity, I mean, this feels like a situation where you basically alluded to it right here. How many times have we seen coming down mid-November and you look at the ACC and how many teams are 4-6 going, 2 more wins get you to a bowl, and then they all play each other. And you go, someone's going to make a bowl out of this. Someone's going to land at 5 wins. Someone's going to only land at 4. And if NC State's in that theoretical, if Wake Forest is in that theoretical kind of ending there, and it doesn't work out exactly that way because the Delaware game is so late, but right before that, right, with going into UNC and Duke to finish out their season, we'd be perfect. We'd say, hey, perfect, just win one of these, get us to, or, assuming that we're going to count the Delaware one. So have 3 wins and then just say, well, one of them, get the 4 with either North Carolina or Duke, and then get the 5th with Delaware and plus odds. And it's like too many ways. Like we were just saying, too many ways to get to the window. I love that you both went for plus odds in the ACC, which is the conference that is like you said, known for parity, can go off the rails. The 2, the SEC and the Big 12, the SEC and the Big 10, of course, known for putting all the teams in the playoff and all the championships and all the whatever. And then you get the Big 12 and the ACC here, the ones that are really much more entertaining because who the heck knows what's going to happen at all.
100%.
Things.
Look, the parity in the ACC goes the Big 12 is least interesting parity where it feels like you've got good parity where the average line is high. The ACC is just going down and it's becoming like Mactional.
Well, as we will bring back on our segment this year, you don't have to watch them to make the money. So I will not be watching much Wake Forest football this season.
Yeah. Well, this is where we're getting we're going to start getting off the rails here first. Not too crazy, but SMU, we're going to go plus 900 to win the ACC. And I have to harken back because, again, going back to 2 years ago when we did this, I pulled back every bet that was relevant. I've got the full list of bets. It's all archived, but the teams aren't relevant because we didn't repick any of them except for the ones I mentioned, except for that one you did, Cousin George, you did bet SMU to win the AAC. Back then we could call it that, right? At plus 275, and they went undefeated in conference, won the conference championship. And that was, again, you needed every bit of it because you and Jake both made so much money. That SMU was good to you then, and you're going to go back to the well here, winning a different conference at much bigger odds. But we just talked about this conference being crazy and the parity. So plus 900 worth a shot, you think?
Yeah, and honestly, if I had to do it, I wouldn't say I wouldn't make this pick over again, but I think this is a really good real life play. And what I mean by that is,
I thought we were in real life here. I'm a little confused. Are we in a simulation? Am I in the Matrix?
Let me get for the purposes of this exercise, they have to win the conference championship for this to be considered a success. I cannot hedge out of this if SMU were to make it to the conference championship game in this exercise. In real life, I can hedge out of it if SMU makes the conference championship game.
We have not allowed for that provision in the contest.
Yes,
And
exactly.
the high stakes that we have. We haven't even talked about the stakes yet. We're we're an hour and 20 minutes into this, and we haven't talked about the stakes yet. But the high stakes contest says there is no hedging allowed. At least as of now, Jake. Maybe if you allow him to, I guess anything can happen. Gentleman's agreement, right?
No hedging. No.
No hedging. Okay, there you go.
I don't have to keep track of that and what I'm cheering for and what I'm.
Yeah. No hedging on this. So real life, take the plus 900. Potentially hedge out of it if they got to the conference title game. For me, this is so clearly the top two teams in the ACC are Clemson and Miami, and then I think SMU and Louisville are the step below there, but both still pretty good teams in my opinion. I put SMU above Louisville. I just feel like SMU has a track record at this point that they're going to be fairly consistent. You know what they're going to get out of them. I have concerns about Miami with Carson Beck's coming in at quarterback there. Cam Ward had to be perfect last year for Miami to do what they did. And you bring in Carson Beck, who in SEC games last year had just as many interceptions as touchdowns. You had a porous defense on Miami's side. You have Manny Diaz, who can screw up the end of game clock management situations like nobody else in the sport. I just have more faith in SMU over the course of a season to actually get to the conference championship game. Will they actually win the conference championship game if they're going up against Clemson? Maybe not. No. We saw what happened last year with Clemson winning that game, but I just like the consistency with SMU. I don't think they're going to beat themselves like maybe some of the other contenders in the ACC might do. And then, in real life, they get there, you hedge out of it. Here, obviously, if they make it to the conference championship game, I'll still be happy with a plus 900.
And of course, they get, what'll be a tough game at in Baylor and a tough game at TCU, which matters nothing for this.
Yeah, who cares?
Nothing for this. It's actually probably good. It's good tests early in the season to prepare them for the better teams they're going to play, because Baylor and TCU are good early season tests, but still nowhere near the talent that they're going to be facing at Clemson and Miami. So it actually probably works out better in this situation to not have to worry about those. They get Louisville at home, which is a huge thing coming off a bye. So if there is any possibility that if they've escaped somehow the Clemson-Miami games, if they've won one of them, or if those teams have won them as falter or whatever, they have the bye week to reset and make sure that they take care of business against Louisville. So that sets up really well for them. Obviously, that's going to be the two big things. But it's a plus 900 bet, people. That's why, because you only have $50 on it, here. But there's enough of a chance that they get there and anything can happen with regards to the one game, or like you said, you hedge out of it, which is probably what we would do, just because we've seen what can happen with the team like this. Kind of like I mentioned with BYU, that still struggled with depth with regards to playing at this level. But the top line talent is there. The model has loved their top line talent here. We've been on SMU a lot here these last couple of years, and it's been mostly a profitable ride. The Preston Stone thing got a little bit weird, but Kevin Jennings turned out to just be an absolute stud himself. And so at first it seemed a little bit like we were a little bit confused as what was happening. And then when we realized, the other guy's like just as good, just a little bit different skill set with his extra mobility, and what Jennings offered. And of course, you love bring him back. But I also love the fact that Tyler Van Dyke is the backup, which I'm not saying obviously we want anybody to get hurt or anything, but they actually might have the best backup in the conference.
Yeah. Because
assuming he can get back healthy, this guy's already won the Rookie of the Year for the same conference, whatever it was 4 years ago. So if he can figure out how to stay healthy or whatever, and obviously, hopefully they don't need him, because we would never, want any injuries to happen. But they've actually got a pretty good backup here, which is wild to say. But in Jared, I think you kind of danced all around it. I just wanted to say they're so well coached. Yes. And that's what happens when you get strong coaches, that you feel more comfortable making these types of plays, because you know that even though the odds may be stacked against you, you've got a guy who's shown time and time again, he figures out ways to get the most out of his players, to change his scheme mid-flight, like, last season with the Stone thing, right? To change things up and figure out how to make it work, which gives you a little hope there. The flip side of that, though, is that you actually can, and we are making a pick on the first Power 4 coach fired.
Well, I'm making a pick. Y'all were not dumb enough to go along with me on this. I am dumb enough to do it.
Tony Elliott, first Power 4 coach fired, plus 2,000. Because first off, we are not sponsored by any sports book. Where can you even bet this? Just because I don't even know where you can bet this at.
Yeah. So this is over at Bet Online.
Okay.
Is where I found this.
We've long supported Bet Online just because they typically have less juice, and they're a very reputable offshore that we've had good experiences with. But
yes,
over there, at least, who knows it's domestics, plus 2,000. Tony Elliott, first Power 4 coach fired. I know you've not been a fan of what he's done at Virginia. I guess you're finally putting your fake money where your real mouth is.
Yeah, and so really this is, for me, a combination of length of time they've been at the school, the financial impact of letting the coach go, and then the upside of the team for this season. So there are plenty of coaches with shorter odds that you could see being fired. Scott Satterfield at Cincinnati is a team that we talked about. Hugh Freeze at Auburn is a team that we talked about. Brent Venables at Oklahoma, Sam Pittman at Arkansas. There's all of these teams that could potentially let their coach go. But in each of those situations, like I'll say Oklahoma, for example, Oklahoma could win 9 games this season. Tough schedule for sure, but it's Oklahoma. They're going to have a good defense.
Got a lot of talent.
Yeah, if Mateer, plays really well, that team could win 9 games. On the flip side, you've got a guy like Mike Gundy, who maybe should be fired, but do we think that Oklahoma State's going to part with Mike Gundy in the middle of the season?
That would be really weird. That would be a very departure from they in the way that's been handled is mostly you feel like it's going to be a gentleman's handshake agreement kind of. It's not going to be
play out the season.
Leaving them on the tarmac,
Yes, exactly.
We've seen before.
Yeah, Arkansas with Sam Pittman, they always find a way to win a game. They shouldn't. Last year it was Tennessee. They beat, sorry, Jake. I think Pittman could win a game or two that keeps him his job a few weeks longer than he probably should. I can go through all of these other teams and be like, hey, here's a way I can see the coach keeping their job or a situation. With Virginia and Tony Elliott, he's just been there long enough now. They know it's probably not going to be
fourth season.
Yeah, 4th season. He's not, they haven't made this huge financial investment into him. It's the ACC. Even with it being the ACC, Virginia's going to find a way to lose some games. I think they have maybe the least upside of any of those other teams that I had on my list. So yeah, I just don't think it's a good situation for Virginia that I think they can get out of, I don't know, maybe like 2/3 of the way through the season.
Well, from the contest standpoint, like, does this go on until somebody in the Power 4 is fired? Like, is this going to hold out for like 3 years and we're waiting for?
No. Someone will get fired before the end of the season. I would put all my money that there's going to be a Power 4 coach fired.
Some married coach is going to text his girlfriend on his work phone and he's going to be fired. I mean, come on.
I mean, I knew we were going off the rails eventually.
Well, I'll even take a put on administrative leave. We'll consider that a firing for the purposes.
Of note, I was looking at this, a couple things. First off, Chandler Morris, their quarterback from North Texas. I'm not sure he's the best fit for this. And the reason I say that is Chandler Morris put up some really good numbers last year in a North Texas offense that's built to thrive on offense. Yeah. That's kind of what I don't know if that's what they're going to be able to do here. I don't know. I mean, for him, I get it. I would totally be going to a Power 4 situation. It's just this, I don't know if this is a great offense to come into. That's a big question mark there. If things don't quite click there. Here's the thing that I wanted to talk about though. They have their bye week 7. This sets up because they're gonna beat William and Mary. We're gonna say they're gonna lose at NC State. They're gonna lose to Florida State. They're gonna lose at Louisville. They've got 2 big question mark games at home that they'll be favored in: Coastal Carolina and Stanford. So they're going to be 1-3 in their first 6 with those 2. If they're 3-3, they win both of those games, go into their bye week, they're feeling optimistic. There's no way he gets fired at 3-3 going into the bye week, because then you look at the rest of the schedule, they've got more, tougher games, but winnable games. They could win Washington State, they can win Wake, they can win Virginia Tech maybe, or maybe they steal a game at Cal. They've got a chance for a bowl game. So if they're 3-3, they take care of business. They're going to have to then lose other losable games. And then at that point, my fear is some other coaches aren't getting fired is the problem. We need it to happen soon enough.
Yep.
But yeah,
I was going to say, for me, the game is Stanford. If they lose that game, a team coming across the country who fired their coach in April and brought in Andrew Luck's BFF, Frank Reich, to be an interim head coach, ostensibly just for this season, that's going to be a really tough pill to swallow for Virginia if that happens.
That one's going to be also Coastal Carolina is going to treat this as a rivalry game. I know it's maybe not their biggest rivalry game, but anytime those schools get to play, those Sun Belt schools are dangerous against these ACC schools. We see it all the time.
Yep.
And that's to start off the season, week 1. I mean, if they're 1-5, he's gone by that bye week, and he may be gone after the Stanford game. I mean, it may be even right then at 1-4 if they were, or 1-3, excuse me, to lose to Stanford before Florida State and Louisville. But if nothing else, even if they wait to the bye week, they lose those 2 games like they should. If they're 2-4 or 1-5, we got a chance to win this one just because, then you just have to hope that something else didn't happen earlier in the season. And that's why this is plus 2,000, because any number of things can happen, right? This is not a, remotely anywhere near a coin toss. It's just if they're 2 and like I said, if they lose that Stanford game, if the only wins are week 1 against Coastal and then William and Mary, they're going to the bye week at 2-4, and you look at the rest of the schedule and they think there's a chance we can still make a bowl game if we make a change now. There's a lot of ways that could happen. So we're going to go plus 2,000 there. Cousin Jared, you've got one more pick here. Miller Moss to lead the ACC in passing yards at plus 700. Miller Moss, former USCW great, now playing in the ACC.
Yeah, I like this. I like this play a lot for it being plus 700. Not as much as Jeremiah Smith play, but like this one a lot. If you go look at who has lower odds than Miller Moss, it's Carson Beck and Cade Klubnik. So the 2 guys that you would expect in the ACC. For me, specifically with Beck, I already talked about Beck did not play well last year in his time that he played at Georgia. Also, that Miami team, because what people are doing is they're projecting Cam Ward stats on Carson Beck is what's happening here. But those Miami games their entire season had to play out in such a specific way for Cam Ward to get those stats that he had. And that was Cam Ward be absolutely immaculate and Miami's defense be absolutely terrible. And
yeah, because if they were any better, it wouldn't have been quite so crazy.
Yes, exactly. And I think what's going to happen if Carson Beck plays really well, he's probably getting pulled later in some of these games because they're not close. And we talk about this with some not as well known schools, some of the smaller schools, but Miami's defense cannot be worse than what it was last season.
You'd think not.
Yeah. And so I think the odds of having a repeat of that exact same scenario with a quarterback who has been much more inconsistent than Cam Ward was and a defense that has nowhere to go but up, I just don't see Carson Beck replicating the same stats that Cam Ward had last season. And so for me, this really comes down to Klubnik versus Miller Moss. And I think that Jeff Brom just has a track record. Head coach at Louisville. He has a
very
track
quarterback friendly coach.
Super quarterback friendly. I mean, he had Purdue winning 7 and 8 games with quarterbacks that I can't name now. Rondale Moore was a really good receiver. They had some really good receivers come through there during his time at Purdue. But, he made Tyler Shuck as a second round pick in the NFL draft, probably going to be starting for the Saints. I mean, Jeff Brom is just the quarterback whisperer. And I think Clemson's going to blow out a lot of teams. Klubnik he's not going to be playing late into some of these games, where I think Louisville is going to need every yard that Miller Moss can get them. I think Louisville's going to need. So yeah, I think set plus 700 is a great play.
I love the Brom offense. Anytime you can get a quarterback in that offense and back them, it's like finding ways to back starting pitchers that you like. You go, well, we're going to back them on the side. We're going to play the under. We're going to play his strikeouts over. We're going to find a way to back him somehow. And it's like backing a quarterback in a Jeff Brom offense is like a no-brainer. Just got to figure out how you can do it, right? And this is one.
Yep. Yeah, this is one of my favorite plays that Jared made. When I saw this, I was like, I like this a lot.
I think, yeah, there you go. And I think, the Carson Beck thing is so interesting because he was a fantastic quarterback with literally the cupboard full of every weapon you could imagine, every which way possible, and yet wasn't able to do what Cam Ward did. He's not that level. And what is that going to mean on the step down to that? I don't quite know how that's going to translate, but he's definitely talented, but he's also, it's not quite the same situation.
Yeah. Well, and clearly, you've probably been able to extrapolate from my comments here, but the combination of Manny, or what's not Manny Diaz, but the coach at Miami, blanking on his name now. Anyway, the combination of their coach and Carson Beck,
Mario Cristobal.
Yeah,
the only man to ever screw up the end of game. You should kneel the ball, and it bit you in the butt on a big game on national television twice. I mean, I think he might be the only one to do that once, and he did it twice.
Yes.
I mean, just 10 out of 10 no notes, honestly.
Yeah, the combination of Cristobal game management and Carson Beck's propensity for turnovers, I think it's just, it could go great. But I just feel like there's going to be like a couple of games this year where you're just like, what the hell did we just watch? Like, I feel like Miami's destined for that this season.
That's always Miami for sure. It's a little bit different, right? Because it's like with Cam Ward, it was, what did we just watch? It felt almost like, especially I was a student at Baylor during the RG3 Heisman year. And that was basically that year where it was like crazy fun, offensive genius, insane defense, and just chaos. And at the end, you were just exhausted. Like, I don't even know what just happened. It's like that was with Cam Ward, and like Carson Beck's a little bit of a different flair of that. It's not quite the same what just happened. It's a little bit different.
He's also got way worse offensive options. Like you had Damian Martinez in the backfield, and I cannot think of the receiver's name.
Restrepo?
Yeah, he's not there. Like I don't think Carson Beck is really set up for ultra success at Miami this year.
I mean, they lost everybody. I mean, they lost and it's not just they lost them like to transfer, like to the NFL. Like they lost their four best receivers and their running back and their quarterback all of the NFL. And it's like, maybe they'll replace all of that, but also, and I know they've got a lot of talent for sure. It's not to say that they won't be a really good team, but it's like, that's a lot. That's a lot changing there at Miami. So we're going to go plus 700 because Jared, this is to wrap up. You had $99 on this one. I love backing a quarterback in the Brom offense. I think where this one gets interesting is why will Miller Moss succeed in a quarterback-friendly offense when he didn't succeed previously in what many people would say is a quarterback-friendly offense with Lincoln Riley? That's, I think, the question that I think is kind of lingering in my head. That's the last, like, if that hadn't happened and he had a successful tenure at USC, this is probably priced like more like plus 350.
Well, okay. So let's keep in mind USC and Miller Moss beat LSU to start the season last year. Going through the gauntlet of a Big Ten schedule, a little different than going through an ACC schedule. And I by no means am disparaging Lincoln Riley by saying this, but look at the quarterbacks that Lincoln Riley has had over the years. I mean, like, a great quarterback coach, for sure. But, I mean, come on. Jeff Brom has taken guys that are, I mean, clearly this is an exaggeration, but some guy that's probably selling insurance or a real estate agent now, and had them as, the leading passer in the Big Ten. So
this is no offense to anyone who does this for a career. We are very happy with you and whatever. I don't know.
Yes.
Disclaimer.
Yes. It is not Caleb Williams. It's not Kyler Murray. It's not Baker Mayfield is what I'm getting at. So I just think that Brom is able to really raise the bar for the guys that he's coaching.
Well, I'll take it a step further and I'll give you an actual hot take, which is I'm not sure Lincoln Riley is the best quarterback coach out there, just because also all those quarterbacks you talked about, I'm pretty sure I've been at multiple Baylor games beating those quarterbacks when Baylor had mediocre teams. So as a Baylor fan, it wasn't hard to beat those guys. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Yeah. I just like to poke fun of Oklahoma fans too.
Well, I mean, but that was your hot take when that hire happened. You asked, is USC really even better, than Oklahoma? So you've had a hot take around Lincoln Riley for a while now.
I have, and I have nothing against the guy. I've never met him or I don't know anything about him.
Yeah,
it's just some questions I have. That's the whole show. That's all the bets. We'll have this posted in the season sheet. Like always, we'll post this. We'll post a little screenshot to everybody that's with us on Patreon, or obviously if you're with us on Patreon, you're with us on Discord. We didn't mention this before. This is one of those things where like I should take this part of it now and move it to the start of the show. But if you're with us on Patreon, you get the Discord access, which is a lot of fun. Other people handicapping sports, the NBA right now. You get all the baseball stuff, all the model stuff from that, all the A-grade picks. But then also you can be on Patreon. There's a free subscriber ability, and you get, we brought back the free play of the day. I haven't gotten out every single day yet. Mostly been like 4 or 5 days a week here, but we're up several many units on that, doing that for 3 weeks now. So you just sign up for free and you just get a free email every day. And then you get access to a little snippets of some of the paid content we've got. We'll post here these picks just so people can look at them visually if you're on the free stuff, because this is on airing on YouTube, so we'll get that out there for free. Gentlemen, Jake, I'll start with you. What did I miss? What should I have said, or what do you want to say?
I don't think we missed anything. This is shaking off the rust. Who knows here? It'll be a lot of fun to keep track. And I mean, comment, let us know where we're wrong throughout the year. Come back, mark this video down, and just be sure to poke fun at whoever is wrong, or give us our flowers when we're right.
That's what I say. As long as the comments are above board, nothing below the belt, and you just got to compliment us when we're right. Just like we're gonna be wrong. We say that we're gonna be wrong. We're gonna be right. Not all of these will win, but some of them will, and some of them will be fun to track, of course. But I think it's like we're always saying, right? We win more when we win than we lose when we lose, and that's really all that matters here. Is that some of these are going to be absolute clunkers, and that's okay, and we'll laugh at them too. But ideally, it'll be like it was 2 years ago, and you guys will make a bunch of money. We still need to figure out the stakes of this. I still stand by the Waffle House challenge, just because I feel like for the loser, I feel like it's just a classic, But we got to figure out what we're doing for the winner and the loser of this at some point. So if you have ideas, drop those in the comments as well. Cousin Jared, I'll turn it over to you. What did we miss? What did I forget? What else do you want to say?
This is just the start of our college football coverage, so we'll be back here next week covering actual games. Got week 0 games, got a handful of games that we'll be talking about, making picks there. So excited for that to happen. I'm going to be breaking news to my editor here. So the article that I'm going to be writing this week, I can't believe I talked myself into doing this. Be ranking all 136 FBS teams going into the season. Yeah. It'll be light on commentary, but it'll be fun. And so if you want content, go subscribe over on Patreon. You can go read through everything I've written so far. And this week I'll give you a 1 to 136 rating.
We might even have like the extended cut. I might just add my comments in as well on the team just for fun. The model might be done by then. We're working through the roster updates. There's all the transfers, just getting everybody in the right spot, getting everything linked together. That's a process that I wait too long on every year. But at some point we'll have the model rankings that we can compare, see what the model says versus what you say, Cousin Jared.
I have a feeling that my top 40 will be solid, and after that things might go astray. But just to prepare yourselves.
That's the way it goes. It should be a lot of fun. And yes, next week we will have all 4 week 0 games. The model should be done by then, so we can then talk about some interesting things that the model has found. We can preview random different things as well. We'll have some leeway. If you have ideas, if you're still with us at this point, we'd love to hear your ideas. Even if you aren't still with us here, I don't know how you'd hear this. About your ideas of what else we could cover in the week 0 episode, because we'll be getting to week 1, and then we'll have more games that we know what to do with soon enough. So the ability to talk random stuff will go away quickly once we get into week 1. That's all we've got. I don't even know how I'm signing off these things anymore, but whatever it is, we'll figure something out. We're on a new platform. We're on a new recording thing. Like you said, Jake, we're getting all the rest up. We'll have to figure out however we're wrapping this thing up.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching the season bets episode. Like and subscribe. Yeah, we're been a while, but we're back. So thanks for being back with us.
You can eat your betting money, but don't bet your eating money.
Yeah, remember that we're week to week. We win more when we win than we lose when we lose.